We are back to discuss emotional intelligence, often referred to as EQ. And we're going to discuss a little bit our thoughts on this module and lesson. But I have a question, Noelle. Growing up, not to brag, but I come from a family of, well, we all consider ourselves to have really high IQs. A lot of nerds in our family.
Oh, yeah.
Mom and dad nerdy, brothers nerdy. I was probably nerdy. And we would all think we had super high IQs. We basically thought that EQ was something that people that were stupid just basically were coming up with to try to get us off our pedestal.
Right.
Is that true?
No.
I didn't think, no, I know it's not true.
Absolutely not. The book smarts and the street smarts in common language, right?
Yes. But it's even street smarts doesn't do it justice, because that was obviously a funny way of introducing the
Right.
subject, whereas in reality, the older I get and the more I've done many different things, I'm a huge fan of EQ over IQ, and I can understand the importance of it. So emotional intelligence, let's kind of review. What is it exactly? I have my own little definition, everybody does, but there's some central things. How would you define it?
Emotional intelligence is just being self-aware, being aware of yourself, being aware of other people, and being aware of motivations, feelings, and all the things going on that you're picking up on in your environment.
Good. And on a really simple level, I would almost describe it as the form of intelligence that allows people that no matter what life throws at them, because life is always going to throw things at you that hit your stuff,
Yeah.
that basically frustrate you, make you mad, make you feel small, make you feel jealous, make you feel bitter or envious, whatever, all sorts of things. Life's going to do things that are out of your control, and this form of intelligence allows you to block that out and continue doing what you're supposed to be doing and
Yeah.
not be affected by it.
Like emotional regulation and
Yes.
management and emotional intelligence. Okay.
And I think it's in some ways it's I guess we'll talk about, there's three sort of main key components of this. First of all is the self-awareness, as you mentioned, to sort of understand, why am I feeling this way? What caused it? It's not that some people you hear and work with a lot of college students, it's be like, it's just the professor doesn't like me and it's not fair and blah, 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 and the world's against me, or just sort of like this
Right.
thing. But more the awareness to sort of realize, okay, this happened, it caused me to kind of hit my stuff a little bit, and that's why I am not feeling so hot today.
Yeah.
Or I've been laying around watching Netflix all weekend. That's why I probably don't feel like doing anything, because I don't have any momentum. That's self-awareness.
Yeah.
At least understanding this is why I'm feeling how.
Correct.
Then there is self-regulation, which is the ability to be, I guess as the metaphor is, to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. A thermometer is reflective of the temperature of the environment. A thermostat sets the temperature.
Yeah.
And so no matter what happens, if somebody is mean to you or says something that disrespects you, your ability to not let that ruin your whole day. Or a professor makes you feel kind of silly, and not to just talk about that for the next week. And
Yeah.
because in that process you spiral even into worse places.
Totally.
And then the third part is, your ability to be disciplined and with all this and still have self motivation. And this is sort of like very similar to the concept of grit or just mental discipline, but whether it be athletes, whether it be people that are really successful in business, really anything you want to go into, the arts, music, the people that succeed are the ones that have a super high IQ, and they stay focused on the task, and they do not allow themselves to emotionally be so up and down. They're a little more just, they still have their bad days,
Steady.
but they don't allow it to be,
They don't ride the emotional roller coaster. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing, it's easy sitting here at the, philosophically talking about this stuff and saying like, yeah, the world throws you lemons, make lemonade or something.
Yeah.
The reality is, what we're talking about, and I have a colleague I work with that I, feel like I'm more talented than he is, or maybe smarter than him, but he is very diligent. He has super high EQ. He does what he's supposed to do all the time, and he does really, really well because of that. But it's easy to sit here and say, well, that's what you should do. At the same time, what we're really talking about is, what if you had a breakup or something, or if you
Yeah.
were a little heartbroken over something? What if
Totally.
you didn't have any friends when you first came to college? Can you basically just, learn to manage and regulate your emotions and keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, and not let that affect your life?
Totally. I actually find that it's hardest to do that sometimes when we're just moseying along, doing our thing, and then all of a sudden something unexpected happens out
Something
of your
unfair.
control. Something totally unfair. The injustice of it, just totally. Well, first your reaction, your first thought. It's like the first thought versus second thought thing. It's like, I'm ready to throw something, probably some punches. But then your second thought kicks in and you have this moment where you're like, yeah, no, I've been here. I've been here before in another capacity, and I know my best course of action is not to punch somebody.
Or what's very easy to do is when something happens is basically you start thinking about it constantly about how that was so unfair. And then
Yeah.
what's interesting, and I've caught myself doing this better, certain times worse than others when I was younger, but then I will start hyper focusing on all the unfair
yeah.
things. I start looking for more evidence of injustice.
Injustice.
And then before long, I'm super worked up.
Like a victim mentality.
And then I don't want to do anything because, it's just easy to. Whereas if you have a super high EQ, you would basically be able to maybe it was unfair. That's fine. Life isn't fair. Let it go. Mm-hmm. Don't personalize whatever happened and move forward.
Don't take it personally. Don't dwell and overthink on that thing, because you will build momentum in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
A lot of it comes back to an attitude thing, and if your head and your perspective is screwed on straight because you're following your schedule, you're doing your habits, you feel confident, you feel like things are going for you. I think we talked about this, or we talk about this in Momentum. These little obstacles or these little things that get in your way, they don't feel consequential at all. So maybe in a place where the colleague that you're talking about, super diligent, all that stuff, maybe at that point you were in a place where you didn't feel like you were doing everything you said you were going to do. That's how I've felt routinely when I'm jealous of somebody or when I find myself comparing. I'm like, dang, I know I cut a corner, and now I think they're doing better than me, and that ruins my attitude. And then all of a sudden, I take things personally. All of a sudden, I go down that spiral of overthinking, and it becomes, negative, not productive at all.
The other thing about this topic is it's oftentimes if life's going pretty well in high school, it's hard to imagine. High school's a pretty controlled environment, and
yeah.
it's you live. I went to school because my mom worked at the school.
Yep.
So there wasn't really ever any question on it. But as you do get older and you have more free will, it becomes a little bit more, you could say, challenging. I think EQ is something that, there's tests that people can take to measure it, but I think it's always important to take on challenging programs or do challenging things when you're younger. I think the ultimate probably EQ building program might be Navy SEALs training.
Yep.
But most of us are never going to go down that road. But there's plenty of things. Anything that's challenging or anything that's basically outside your comfort zone, basically, learning it forces you to basically build your self-discipline. Become more regulated, and then also in that process you become a lot more self-aware of why am I feeling this way, and then learning how to fix it quick.
Yeah.
But you never build EQ if you're just doing easy things, especially when you're younger. And once again, if I had any regrets from when I was like maybe 21, it's I wish I'd done more challenging, even more so than a lot of things I did do.
Totally, because it's all a muscle. Really,
it is a muscle.
Emotional management and emotional regulation, they're all muscles that you build, and if you build them and know how to build them while you're younger, things get easier for you when you're older.